pens down, fingers off keyboards, give your eyes a break, and listen up. Today we're going to talk about the advice I would give to writers just starting out. So just starting out, I would say they have no presence online. They might have dabbled in some short stories, but not published anything. They might have started some novels or had ideas for novels, but not published anything. Essentially, an unpublished writer who's interested in starting this process in a more serious way. So, I would like to say my credentials first because you obviously don't have to trust anyone that you listen to on the internet. So I've self-published one book and then I have sold 2 books to an indie publisher. I have a blog on medium.com. I have my own website with an emailing list, and obviously I have this as well that you're either listening to or watching online. And I'm currently in the process of writing another book that I will be self-publishing. So that's exciting. And that one is about the process of grief and dealing with the process of grief, but in a fictionalized way. So hopefully it's helpful for people who are looking for a bit of, I guess, comfort and validation for their own feelings. So for the writers that are just starting out, that haven't published anything, that are looking to publish, that are kind of wanting to get into that realm and that space, I would say the first thing that you need to do is decide your why. Why do you want to write? Do you want to write because it's fun? Do you want to write because you have this big goal in mind and this vision? And once you start writing, you can see how your life is going to play out. What parts of that interest you about writing? Is it the writing specifically, or is it the fame and money that you're definitely not going to get? I'm very sorry to burst that bubble. But you figure out your why. If it is purely a love of writing and enjoyment of the process of writing, perhaps there's an enjoyment of marketing in there. If the joy comes from building the writing career, I say go for it. Jump in, enjoy, because you're not going to make a lot of money from this. Definitely not going to get famous. It's going to be all about the journey. You're going to publish a book. You're going to put all your effort into marketing it. And then from my experience so far, the first month that the book comes out, there's a lot of hype, there's a lot of excitement from you, but also in the world. You can see sales popping up, you can see things happening, you want to talk about it on social media, so that's getting the word out, and then it sort of drops away. And so you want to keep publishing and keep publishing to keep those rankings and I guess a little bit of the money that you will receive coming in. There are other things that you can do, like going to markets, freelancing, blogging. So much that you can do, but it is so much work that you're really gonna have to love the process, because most of us are doing this, me included, alongside our full-time jobs. So bear that in mind, that this is not yet a full-time career, hopefully one day. So figure out your why, figure out what it is that you enjoy about writing, what it is about kind of this lifestyle that you're looking for. And if it's not to do with writing, if it's to do with something else, if it's freedom, travel, working online, there are so many other things that you can do that include that. And if it's writing that you want to do, great, but do explore, because there are so many, even within writing, there's so many different subcategories of writing that you can do. Content writing, technical writing, medical writing, email writing, business to business writing, business to customer writing, novel writing, script writing. There's a lot. Reviewing. There's so much. There is really, really a lot. So explore your options, see what's out there, see what you vibe with, try things and enjoy. The second thing I would suggest is to learn on your own. There's a lot of questions around whether or not you need a degree, whether you should get a degree in writing, and there's nothing wrong with a degree. Degrees help in many ways. If you do want to travel, they do help with getting visas. If you want to get jobs, there are certain jobs that just require a degree. It doesn't really matter what degree, but a degree. But a specific writing degree, unless it's like journalism and you want to become a journalist and you're happy to put in all that effort for journalism, great. But if you want to be a creative writer and you're going to uni to study creative writing in the hopes to become a professional creative writer, stop right now. That sounds fun. I've definitely contemplated it. I bet it's a great time. You'll learn discipline, you'll network, you'll do all these things that are really beneficial. But if you're going to get a hefty loan out of it, expecting to get a job right as soon as you graduate, stop. Before you do that, and I'm not saying don't do it, but just before you do that, learn on your own. Google, get out there and search online. read blogs of people who've done this before, watch content of people who've done this before, see what steps they've put in, see what they recommend, learn as much as you can from the tips that they are giving for free, and see what you can do to build up your own kind of portfolio of work before you want to do this. Because yes, it can help you with the discipline to get that portfolio, but you'll get out what you put in, essentially. So if you're ready to put in 200,000%, great. But also, if you're doing that already, you might not need a course to help you out. You might be doing all of the things and you might not need to get that hefty loan out to be a writer, essentially. You can just do it on your own, and you absolutely can. You just need discipline, and you need the knowledge, you need the know-how, you need the community, and that can all come from people's blogs, people's online content, and just various online kind of, how do you do this? And there will be so much advice that pops up for free. The third thing would be find a community. This could be an online community. It could be on blogging sites. It could be through Reddit. It could be through, I think, maybe Royal Road. I haven't really used it, but I've heard good things about it. You could join writing circles in your local area. You could join online writing circles or online writing sprints. I haven't done those myself, but I've seen them. So if you're someone who likes to stay at home but also be part of other people's circles while you're online, you can do an online writing sprint where you just quietly write away with a whole lot of other people there on Zoom, I think. Not 100%. Haven't done it myself. But find a community of people who you can go to for support when you publish something. You can say, yay, I'm so excited. And people will be like, I understand how that feels because I've either been working towards the same goal or they've done it before, so they know how much work it is to do that. Or you might be blogging, you might be like, oh, I've run into the snag, I'm not really sure what to do. And they can say, hey, I got you. I can help you. You might be marketing a book on social media and run into an issue, even just a negative comment or a negative review, and you can go to your community and be like, I'm so heartbroken, I'm so sad. Whereas people outside of that community might be like, don't think about it, it's just one. Whereas people in that community can be like, that's heartbreaking, I know how hard that is, but also there'll be other reviews and there'll be good reviews, and this is the steps that you can take to get those good reviews. So find the community to help support you, to help bring you out of funks and to celebrate with you when you're at your highs and to kind of ride with you in your middle ground. That's, I would say, a very necessary part of writing. 4, put your name out there. Get blogging, get on Reddit, get guest posting, put your work in published magazines, apply for 150,000 jobs, because even if you're like, wait, I haven't set up my office space, I haven't decided on my niche, I haven't done any of this, why am I all of a sudden putting myself out there when I haven't decided on my brand? And I say it because you don't need one. That's a controversial opinion. I know a lot of people are like, know your niche, know what you want to talk about. I'm someone who has multiple niches and they're quite broad. I talk about writing, I write literary stuff, I also travel blog. It's a lot. Possibly it's too much, possibly it's the perfect amount. I think it's the perfect amount. But you want to practice. Before you get really serious, you want to practice. You want to put your, not saying any of your work is bad, but you want to put your least good work, which is usually your first stuff, into a platform before you know how to use it to practice. And sometimes if it's been published like on a blogging platform or if you've submitted it somewhere, it can be a little bit tricky to send it elsewhere. So I would say use your early work that you're like, I don't want people to see this. Maybe not that. Maybe pick work that you're like, I'm not really comfortable with people seeing this, but I think it's good enough. Use that, put it on platforms and email about guest posting. You're probably not going to get jobs, not necessarily because of the work, but because it can be tricky to figure out what is needed in the submissions, to do all that technical kind of admin work, figuring out how to submit something and what people are looking for. That's work in itself, and then the writing is kind of just the addition. And sometimes people want big social media followings, they want published novels from a big publisher, and it's kind of good to learn that early on and figure out kind of who you want to work with, who sits with what you want as well. Like if you're like, yeah, I'm aiming for a big publisher, okay, these are the places. I didn't realize, I didn't know, I thought they were just little indie spots, but no, they are quite prestigious. So you can kind of put those on a list and be like, okay, these are the people I want to keep note of that I want to work with. And it might be the opposite way. You might be like, I'm self-publishing and I thought these people would be supportive of the self-publishing, but they're not. So, okay, I'm going to focus on these people instead. And then with the blogging platforms, you can, if that's something that you're interested in, you can build a community from there. You can learn about short form publishing content and you can go from there. You can build an audience and you can also build a portfolio. 5, get into a routine. We talked about routine, I believe, in the last video. So check that out and make yourself a routine to get used to writing regularly. I want to say write in a uniformed way, but I don't mean your words be uniformed, but the way you get into writing, the way you get out of writing, your writing time is precious. And I think having kind of a uniformed way about how you set that time up is important so that you can feel like it's your sacred writing time that needs to be prioritized. 6, get writing. This is really important. We don't have time for, I don't know how to get my characters, I don't know how to plot. That's all important. But we're going to go back to one of my tips about researching. Instead of going to uni, look at blogs. You don't know how to create a character? Google how to create a character. There's going to be so much information online. You're going to become a character building expert. You're not sure how to plot? Google how to plot. There'll be so much. And you will notice names becoming familiar as you search more stuff and more blogs pop up, and you will know those are the blogs to follow because they are consistent and their name keeps popping up. People obviously listen to them and they listen to them for a reason. So you can take note of those names and follow them and learn from them specifically, or just anyone out there that you like the advice of. But get writing. So if you don't know how to plot, if you don't know how to create a character, I would say just write. Just to start off with, just while you're learning, just write. You don't need a plot. You don't need a character. You want to free write to kind of see what ideas crop up for you, what type of characters crop up for you, what kind of storylines you're drawn to. I used to do this and found that I quite enjoyed a complicated interpersonal relationshipy type stuff, but not heavy on romance. Very, very light on romance, more like friendship, family dynamics. And just the complicated, the complicated dynamics of family and friendships and people and society and that kind of thing in general. That's what I really enjoyed. And that's kind of the genres that I lean towards. And that's even how I discovered what genres I like to read, because I would free write and be like, oh, these are the stories that I want to read about. What would this be? I learned kind of literary, I like reading historical fiction, but I don't write historical fiction, but kind of literary, psychological thrillery type of things. And then from there, I started reading those genres and I was like, oh, finally I know what I like to read, which brings me to tip number 7, read a lot, because you learn, monkey see, monkey do. You learn from other people, you learn from what they've done, you learn from their mistakes, you learn from what they've done well. You just learn from what's already out there. If you're an academic and you want to learn to write an essay, you read a lot of essays to learn the structure. If you're a plumber and you want to learn how to be a plumber, you watch people do plumbing first. Same with if you're becoming a teacher, you watch people be a teacher first. If you want to be a politician, you watch the politicians. You want to be an actor or an actress, you watch people doing that job first. With writing, you read a lot of books, you read a lot of short stories, you read a lot of blogs. You just read a lot so that you can learn what sells, what people like to read, what you like to read, kind of themes and stuff that you like. And it does help influence you. Even if you don't think it does, the writing styles that you read will influence you, which is why a lot of advice is to read widely so that you don't get so honed in on one type of writing style that you're almost copying it. And having these books lying around is great, because if you're like stuck on a paragraph and you're like, oh, I'm not really sure about the formatting or the sentence structure or how this is feeling, you can pick up a book that you think is similar, have a look for a similarly structured paragraph or theme paragraph, and you can have a look at what they've done and be like, okay, they use like a semicolon here, or okay, this is how they evoke emotion. So definitely read widely. Tip number 8, be realistic about what you can do. So there's no point in pretending that you have 8 hours a day to write when you work a full-time job. You'll probably have 20 minutes, maybe an hour if you're lucky. You need to understand that that time is precious, but it's also not the end all or be all. The world will not end if you don't sit down and write that day. But at the same time, if you're not going to sit down and write, nothing's going to get done. So it's just figuring out your priorities each day, knowing what you have on, knowing what you can do, and being okay with what you can't do. Because you're not going to become a writer if you get burnt out and feeling like the world's collapsing around you because you put too much pressure on yourself. Make sure you do a little bit every day, but a little bit can be one word. It's okay to go slow. I still have days where I'm like, one word is good enough. And that's that. If you want more information and more writing tips, you can head to my website, livyskeltonprice.com. You can join my mailing list. You can check out my blogs. You can also check me out on medium.com, where I write blogs about travel mostly or answering writing prompts. You can also check me out on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook. I often answer questions on Reddit. I'm on LinkedIn, Contra, Upwork. If you do want to work with me, you can also find me on my website to work with me through there. Leave a comment down below about what tips you really like, what tips you would give to your younger writing self, or if you have any questions about writing, the writing process, self-publishing, anything at all, leave them down below and I'll do my best to answer them. All right, lift up your pens and put those fingers back on the keyboard. I'll talk to you next time.